New York City, a city that has always been a gateway to life for immigrants from all around the world because of its abundant and unparalleled job opportunities and the wide open arms that the metropolis has always extended to those from faraway lands who have crossed into its borders. Beginning with those who set sail from foreign lands and enter New York via Ellis Island more than a century to 150 years ago, it's a city that has been built on the boundless dreams and the hard work of immigrants. However, during the past few years, New York City has had to open its arms wider than ever given the large number of immigrants who have arrived in New York at the border via buses and planes. My name is Brett Scholz. I'm 15 years old and I live in New York City on the Upper West Side. I'm a sophomore at a high school in the Bronx called Fieldston. I made this documentary because I am fascinated by the topic of immigration. I also made this documentary to tell my story about all of the fascinating information I have gathered and learned about immigration in New York City. I first became fascinated with immigration when I was in elementary school. I loved when my grandparents told me stories about their parents and grandparents. My grandfather's father, Albert, was born in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1923. He was only 17 years old when he made the journey to America by himself. He made Brooklyn, New York, his first home and became a furrier. My maternal grandmother's father arrived in America with his family from the southern coast of Italy in 1901. Their family settled in New Jersey and opened a fruit store. In order to learn more about recent immigration with New York City, on a sunny but frigid weekday afternoon in December 2024, I met with Councilmember Gail Brewer, who represents the 6th Congressional District on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which is where I lived. Councilmember Brewer graciously spoke with me at length at her bustling office on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. During my interview with her, she provided me with a wealth of information about immigration in New York. One of the first things that she told me is that every immigrant who enters New York wants to find employment so that they could survive and make a better life for themselves and their family, but that they also face significant challenges when they arrive here.
Well, there are lots of challenges that immigrants coming to New York City face, particularly in the last couple of years. I've been working with them nonstop. Number one, they arrive and they don't have working papers, and so they all want to work. In some cases, can get temporary working permits, but many cannot. But the question then becomes, if I don't have any of the above, that's why you see people out selling fruit and candy in the streets. And people get upset with that, but I feel like that's how they're surviving and they're not hurting anybody.
Councilmember Brewer also discussed with me how critical immigrants are to New York City because of the important work they do here, how much the entire state greatly needs their services, and very interestingly, because of the current need to increase New York State's population.
We have, I think it was at least 62 million tourists every year.
Than you are right now.
They all need support, right? With the Jewish hospital on 106th Street, I think she's training 24, which sounds like a few, but desperate, home health aides. You do that all across the state. Desperate, home health, oh my goodness, desperate. Everybody's getting old and they need support. How about the farmers? No grapes, no oranges, no anything without immigrants. Restaurant jobs, construction jobs, hotel jobs, upstate camps. Apparently they're desperate for people to work during the summer. Guess what? We're underpopulated in the state now because of the pandemic. If we don't pay attention, we're going to lose 3 members of Congress. 3! To the north, to the southwest, and to the south. So we need population. And so I don't want these families to go to Minnesota, Texas, wherever. A lot of them are going to Minnesota to work on the farms, interestingly enough. We want to keep them here so that our population is up. We have people to work in the restaurants. A lot of restaurants now are employing legally or illegally, because nobody else is in the kitchen. Who's gonna wash the dishes? Who's gonna prepare the food? So we desperately need these families to come to work.
I then asked Councilmember Brewer about the children who have immigrated to New York and who need to be educated, how New York has handled their integration into the city's school system, and the effect of their presence in the school. Her response was very positive.
The Department of Education has been the star in this. First of all, they were pleased to have young people from different countries, particularly Spanish speaking, because a lot of the schools were underpopulated after the pandemic. Second, a lot of schools have dual language, but if you don't have dual language students, then you're not going to have a dual language program. So they're really happy to have Spanish speaking students and mixed in with English speaking students. Good for everybody. Every student who is in a public school brings state money with him or her. He brings some money just because that's how the state, it's a formula. Guess what? If you're in a shelter, you bring extra money. So the school got extra money for those students because they have extra needs, obviously, social services, etc. So there's like many reasons that this has been a plus.
As for my volunteer experience, in an effort to make a difference in the lives of immigrants in the summer of 2024 and 2025, I volunteered at St. Paul and St. Andrew's United Methodist Church, a progressive church on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. For years, I had passed by the church since it's located close to my home, but barely ever noticed it. And certainly, I never could have imagined what magical things take place inside it. In July and of August, and for months thereafter, I had the amazing opportunity to find out. That summer, I volunteered at St. Paul and St. Andrew's Church during what it aptly calls Miracle Mondays. I was told that the church came up with the name because of the real-life miracles that would happen there on these days of volunteerism. Specifically, each Monday during the summer, for a handful of hours in the morning, members of the communities descended on the church to perform different tasks, all in which were to help the newly arrived immigrants experience the smoothest transition as possible into their new lives in New York City. I was fortunate enough to be able to speak with Pastor Andrea of the St. Paul and St. Andrew's Church for this film so that I could learn more on its remarkable volunteer work that it provides to help immigrants. She started off by talking to me about Miracle Mondays.
Our Miracle Mondays resource fair happened almost every Monday here in the sanctuary of the church from 9 in the morning until 11 in the morning. And we typically welcome in around 100 adults with their children. And throughout the course of the 2 hours, we have various mutual aid organizations here, legal aid organizations, volunteers that help. We have a whole clothing closet where folks can go and shop for whatever clothing they or their families might need. We have a hospitality table where we serve breakfast every morning. We have a corner in the back of the sanctuary, crafts and games and toys for children that has actually recently expanded. There's a whole jewelry making station with women from the Upper West Side community who had jewelry making as a hobby and brought these things into the space. So that's been a really fun thing. Yeah, so that's Miracle Mondays, and I think that people...
Since I was intrigued by the title Miracle Mondays, I asked Pastor Andrea how the church came up with the name and received such a heartwarming response.
We had a father come into the space who had come straight from the hospital. His wife had just given birth to a baby and he needed a car seat in order to be able to leave the hospital. We didn't have any car seats that day, and within 2 minutes, while he was asking for this, a mother walked in off the street with a car seat to donate. Then she heard the story and got on the phone and got on her mom's group from the school, and before the dad left, he had a car seat, a stroller, everything. So those are the types of miracles that happen just by people showing up with kindness and compassion.
Lastly, I asked Pastor Andrea if she could provide me with some guidance as to how others who are interested in helping those who have newly arrived in New York City can do so. She responded by telling me how people have descended on the church to help the immigrant community.
So I think there's so many ways to work and help with the immigrant community, whether or not you're coming here on Monday mornings for a resource fair and doing like direct one-on-one work with folks. I mean, certainly we have tons of people in our community who are dropping off clothing and strollers and beads and arts and craft supplies and things that they're no longer using to share with the immigrant community. It's also amazing because it's more sustainable too, right? So we're helping like keep things out of landfills and garbage, and so that's certainly a way that people can help. They can get involved.
For the final interview for this documentary, on a Sunday afternoon in December of 2024, I met with Gina Cerrito, a project manager for the Jewish Community Center, or JCC, on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, who told me all about the JCC's volunteer efforts to help immigrants who have newly arrived in New York City acclimate to their new lives in this city. I asked her to begin by telling me about herself, her position at the JCC, and generally speaking, what volunteer work the JCC has done to help the newly arrived immigrants.
I work for the JCC Manhattan for the center, the Joseph Stern Center for Social Responsibility. I have been there for a couple of months, but I was doing a lot of this work before. I'm one of the co-founders of D3 Open Arms, which stands for District 3 Open Arms. And myself and the JCC, and now I wear two hats because I also work with the JCC, started a coalition that brought together schools, houses of worship, elected officials, community-based organizations, museums, all these people to come together once a month to best meet the needs of immigrants. It's been really exciting to do this work, and the JCC has been at the forefront of making sure that their neighbors are equipped to best learn and take some of that burden off the schools that received a very large amount of immigrant children in a very short period of time.
I then asked her what other services or programs the JCC offers immigrants.
One thing is the R&Rs that the JCC has. We had a room set up, all in with Spanish books and places for people to come and stay. That's been wonderful. The partnership with St. Paul and St. Andrews has been incredible. We've been able to help and assist New Yorkers and find out the real needs, not what we all assume a need might be in the moment, and to really talk to the people, find out what they need, and then meet those needs.
Lastly, with all of the JCC's admirable volunteer efforts, I asked Gina whether she has received any feedback from any of the immigrants the JCC had helped.
The JCC gets a lot of feedback about how much they're helping. Sometimes it's not in just a person-to-person, how we usually thank each other, thank you for the interview, thank you for coming, but it's really about seeing smiles on people's faces, seeing people wearing coats, having clean backpacks and clean shoes, and feeling welcome at their schools. That's the victory.
In a city home to over 8 million stories, the voices of people like Councilmember Gail Brewer, Pastor Andrea, and Gina Cerrito rise above with a message that is loud and clear: New Yorkers show up. From the millions who immigrated through Ellis Island to the thousands immigrating to New York City today, New York has always been shaped by those seeking a better life. From church basements to community centers, from government offices to sidewalks, New York rallies for those starting over. It's not always easy, but day after day, the quiet acts of kindness and powerful displays of solidarity, strangers become neighbors, and neighborhoods become lifelines. The people of New York City are building bridges across languages, cultures, and boroughs, because here, we don't just welcome immigrants, we walk with them. This is New York City, magnificent, resilient, and united by the belief that everyone deserves a chance to belong and a place to call home.